I was told that Tom Brady was his greatest ally. I think he was in that room the entire time, and that he came off on a scale of 1 to 10, in the words of a person in that room, as an A+ 10 kind of guy. He gave sincere, genuine answers. He had an explanation for everything that went on in the Wells report, and anybody who knows and has dealt with Tom Brady knows how genuine he can be. I'm told that genuineness shined through during the course of that appeal, which I think is going to make life more difficult for Roger Goodell to make a decision on.
Recorded at WMEB Studios at the University of Maine, it's time for All Three Phases. Welcome back to another episode of All Three Phases here on a Wednesday morning. It is Wednesday, right?
It is.
Okay. June 24th, 2015. Sorry. Sometime without school, I really have. I've lost the days of the week. I just know if it's a day off or if I'm working. So nonetheless, here on Wednesday morning, Brandon and Cody here talking about. Well, I mean, what else is there to talk about in Patriots news right now other than Deflategate and the appeal hearing of Tom Brady yesterday, as you heard Adam Schefter in our intro, and it ended after it was like almost 11 hours yesterday. They were appealing in New York. I guess what better place to start than this? We're gonna have some other stuff to talk about later in the show. Some other across the NFL news that's very interesting, but we'll stick with this for now. We're gonna have a guest on very soon, Steve Balestrieri, who wrote an article this morning about the appeal process and the 11-hour appeal yesterday. We'll have him on in just a little bit. But no, this is going to be our first take before we talk to Steve. And I guess I don't know. I guess I just start with 11 hours, Cody. I was going to say,
let's just start with this. How do you feel? Do you feel better today than you did yesterday?
I feel a little bit better. Adam Schefter's comments about Tom Brady kind of reassured me in the fact that I kind of know like the type of guy Tom Brady is. Like I remember in an earlier episode, I was starting to say we all know the type of guy that Tom Brady is, and you assumed that I was thinking that he was like, you know, this genuine, good-hearted, could never hurt a fly type guy. Where I was really saying he reminds me of like. I don't know. He reminds me of like my grandfather in a way. Like he's got his
goes to bed at 7 o'clock.
Has his rituals. Has this. Has that. He's a very mental guy. Like he does things his way, and people don't take that out of context. I don't mean his way is underinflating footballs. No, I think that this whole thing was an issue because he doesn't like the balls on the higher end of the spectrum because it's they're a little bit harder to catch, harder to grip, and he likes that, and he's not really worried about airing it out much because he's got those short receivers, so he doesn't need that much air. He doesn't need extra air in the ball, a la Aaron Rodgers. And I think Adam Schefter said he had an answer for everything. And I think that just goes to show you that Tom Brady does a very good job at presenting himself, whether or not he legitimately told these guys to do something wrong, which I'm starting to think, maybe this is a whole misunderstanding, but I'm still not ruling out the possibility that Brady might have kind of given a wink, wink, nudge, nudge to be like, make sure those balls are at 12.5.
He absolutely did.
And so the fact that he said that Tom Brady was his own greatest ally and that he had an answer for everything, it just kind of reaffirms that in my head, like, yeah, he actually, when he said he doesn't think he did anything wrong, he's able to back that up with explanations. He, quote, had an explanation for everything.
No, he washed his hands of this. That's what he did. This all intentionally. Tom Brady isn't a guy like Teddy Bruschi said, when he did his famous ESPN quote when he said Tom Brady would never tell anyone to intentionally cheat or break the rules. He's right. Tom Brady didn't go to Jastrzemski. He didn't go to McNally and say, I don't care, take the balls after the refs look at them, go in the bathroom that you can lock the door and there's nobody else in, take this paperclip, put the paperclip in, take the air out. There was none of that. He didn't tell them to do that. What he did was he told them, he said, guys, feel this ball. We can't have that anymore. I need these close to 12.5, all right? And, okay, can you do that? Can you do that for me? And, Jastrzemski and McNally, after probably a couple times of Brady really reaming them out, probably went back and said, whatever. We're going to do what it takes. If anything happens, screw Tom.
It's going to be on his head, yeah.
It's going to be on him. He wants these balls like this. Great. We're going to give him these balls like this. So that's what they did. Is that enough to give Tom Brady a 4-game suspension?
Hell no. Absolutely
Is that
not.
enough to give Tom Brady a 1-game suspension? Maybe.
Maybe.
We're going to find out here soon.
Maybe.
You know,
I think 1 game is
There you
actually,
go.
at this point, like the ideal, in my opinion.
well, the ideal is 0 in my
Well,
idea, but
okay.
Realistic ideal for you is 1 game.
Realistic ideal for me
I
is
still
1
think
game.
I still think it can go down to 0. I will even disagree with a lot of the national outlets. I think that Roger Goodell could bring it down to 0 games. I still think he can. He didn't give the punishment. Remember that, people. It was Troy Vincent. He has been saying it's been Troy Vincent from the start. Roger Goodell has washed his hands of this. He said, I'm going to give it to Ted Wells to investigate. I'm going to let Troy Vincent handle the punishment. But when it comes to the appeal, I will hear the appeal. He's setting it up so everybody wins here, whether he gives Tom Brady 1 game or 0 games or 2 games. As long as he brings that down a little bit, he's showing Kraft that, look, I'm trying to meet you halfway here. You guys got caught red-handed. Your hand was in the cookie jar. Now I need to punish you. I need to keep the other 31 teams happy. He's doing that by giving Brady the 4-game suspension, by giving them the first-round draft pick, the 4th-round draft pick, and the $1 million. Those are huge fines for this. And now the appeal, Goodell said, no, I'm going to sit on it. I'm going to be the one because this has been set up from the start. I'm telling you, it's been set up from the start that Kraft was going to step down like he did so that Brady would be spared. And I really think that all these reports coming out now with Schefter, with you hear from Kessler saying they gave a convincing case. I think this was all formality. I think it's been set from the start what was going to happen, whether it's 1 game or 0 games. It's going to be one of those two in my mind. And if it's 1 game, they're going to go to federal court, and they set up yesterday with Brady going under oath to be, a mock kind of run through of when they go to trial or when they go to court.
You think it was kind of like just the look. You don't believe me? I'll testify under oath right
There
now
you go.
that I didn't do anything.
There you go. And I do think that was a large part of it. I really do think that Tom Brady and his lawyers have a very good game plan. I don't think that it's going to be this slam dunk where, Roger Goodell comes out and says, oh, we totally messed up and Ted Wells will never see the NFL shield again for his life and totally banish him. No, it won't be like that. What it should be, it realistically should be $1 million fine or something like that, $250,000, and everybody goes on their way. Obviously, NFL owners would be upset with that, but really, Tom Brady missing the first game of the regular season doesn't do anybody any good. The numbers are still going to be all right, but if Tom Brady's out there week 1, the Super Bowl MVP, it really has, maybe not hurt the NFL financially, but it just kind of keeps up this routine of, another scandal, another this, another that. I don't, as other NFL owners, Tom Brady's probably beaten your team multiple times. Yeah, you're probably envious that he's the golden boy. The Patriots, caught lightning in a jar. They were the team that, will go down in history forever as one of the best of all time because of this quarterback and this coach. As mad as you are about that, at the end of the day, you got to look at this and say, this is just ridiculous now. Let's just end this. It's almost training camp. Let's start pushing product. We got new jerseys coming out. We got new shirts, new hats. Let's start making money. I don't want the headlines being Tom Brady going to federal court. I want the headlines being, look at this matchup in training camp. Look, is Johnny Manziel going to start in Cleveland? Is Jameis Winston going to steal crab legs in Tampa Bay? We want real football headlines.
That's not a real football
That's a real
headline.
football headline.
That is not a real football headline. Get the hell out of here.
We want to see if Johnny Manziel is going to start. All those type of things. That's what we want.
Speaking of media, I feel like everyone's catching wind of this though. Like I feel like it's not just Patriots fans anymore saying that this is a load of bull crap. I think other people are starting to come around and Shefty's starting to sound like it. Something you pointed out to me before we started recording was Jackie Mack was talking about how she kind of flip-flopped on an article where one article she released said that the Patriots dynasty was tainted and their legacy was tainted, and then flipped it back over saying, "Oh no, this is fine. We're gonna be fine." And I completely agree with you, Cody, in the fact that I just to me when this whole thing came out, it was so easy for just the average NFL fan to look at this and immediately cry guilty because it was the Patriots and they're easy to hate because they've been so successful. And, it really wasn't anyone who was talking sense to me unless it was in our friend group, in our sports group, which surprised me because there's not all Patriot fans. Like on Sportsmanlike Conduct, you've got 2 Pats fans, a Giants fan, a Panthers fan, and a Dolphins fan, and all of them agree that it was bullcrap. And it's so crazy when you're not in a bubble of people who, look at the NFL and don't take things at face value, don't take articles at face value. They do research. They look into the context of things and say to themselves, you know what, this doesn't seem right. When you're not inside one of those bubbles and you're just like in your fan group, like you're in a group of Dolphins fans and you see that, the first thing you're going to say, no matter what, no matter how far-fetched it sounds, is burn Gillette Stadium, get him. Literally. Like it's not surprising to me. And that's why I liked our sports group. I liked that bubble that we had of people who looked at it and said, no, this sounds really silly. And now I think that it's drawn on so much. Other people are starting to come around, and I know the
tides are turning.
This is an awful thing to gauge, but this is just how I gauge things. I read comments on sports articles on Facebook, and because that's the down and dirty truth. Like those there is no filter. Like with Reddit, you're gonna get a lot of intelligent conversation because not everyone has a Reddit account.
That's the thing. Everybody has Facebook.
Everybody
now.
has Facebook.
Yeah.
Everybody has Twitter, and it's just that's the cesspool of
I'd say
that's
even
the cesspool of opinion.
As bad as Twitter is at times, and I've had plenty of confrontations with people on Twitter, it's really Facebook. You're exactly right, because everybody has a Facebook now. Everybody's grandmother has a Facebook now, for God's sakes. But you're exactly right. That's a great way to kind of gauge, and like you were saying, now it seems like a lot of, there's still going to be the comments, the meme of, Brady's with his 4 rings and pointing to which one's won.
Well, that's the thing. That's going to happen it's not just the Patriots. It's going to happen with every team that's successful for a while. They're going to start making excuses and say that they're not the greatest. I mean, people have done it for LeBron. People will look at his 2 championship rings and be like, oh, you wouldn't have won those without Dwayne Wade and Ray Allen. And it's just you hate people because they're successful. It's just ridiculous. But there was something else I was going to say.
No, but just about how the fact that, a lot of these fans, and really even fans from other, teams, are coming around and saying that, this is kind of silly. And that's what I really think it's starting to be. A lot of ESPN even. I saw a great poll last night. Somebody tweeted it out from NFL Network. I think it was, does this affect Tom Brady's legacy, yes or no? And it was 86% said no.
There you go.
So it's gone from...
It's turned around.
It's gone from, this guy isn't a first ballot Hall of Famer. Ron Borges, I heard him on Town Fair Tire Sports Tonight on Comcast. I can't stand Borges anyway. Say
none of us can.
He might not be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Knowing Borges, he probably plagiarized and took it from somebody else's article, but knowing him...
Hey, got him.
But anyways, it's just ridiculous how far this has come, and I think even Dan Shaughnessy had an article coming around saying, look, this has gone too far. Ease up. Tom Brady's still the greatest, if not the one of the top 2 greatest quarterbacks of all time. We're not going to kill the guy's character because he did what he did trying to win. He's ultra competitive, and that's what all these guys do. All these guys try to do that. They try to bend the rules. They try to find, maybe not the easy way out, but they try to give themselves a competitive advantage at any spot that they can. And Tom Brady did. And did it cost him here? Absolutely. He got burned. Are there other quarterbacks that do similar things? Absolutely. I don't think that this is just to Tom Brady. I think other quarterbacks do it. We're hearing stories now. Even Schefter talked about it yesterday.
And
there are centers that keep paper clips on them during the game that they'll put in the, air hole, I guess, whatever it is, and they'll let a little bit of air out between snaps. There are quarterbacks that do that, and those aren't Patriots quarterbacks he's getting those from. Those are other NFL quarterbacks. So it's not this new thing.
Something, where's your proof?
And
where's the source?
Even in other sports, you look at the big diesel himself. Shaq came out, oh yeah, during the finals, if the ball would be, too hard, I'd go to the sideline, I'd take air out of it so I could palm it better. No one cared.
Nope.
Are the Lakers, is that Lakers early 2000s dynasty tainted now? No, because no one cares because they were so good they were going to win anyways.
Yep.
If this is where I stand. If the Patriots
it's because the Lakers aren't good anymore.
If the Patriots and the Colts really had this rivalry, if the Patriots won that game by 3 points, if it was really close, I would probably come to you right now and say, you know what? Yeah, that was sketchy. I don't know. But it wasn't. And it hasn't been. The Patriots have destroyed Andrew Luck. They have just absolutely obliterated that team time in and time out. And they did it again. And now they go to the Super Bowl where there are fully inflated balls. It was highly regulated, obviously. And they went out and they beat what was being considered one of the greatest defenses the NFL has seen since, the 2001 Ravens, since the 1986 Bears. They were putting in that category. And Brady goes out and puts out the performance he did. It's over, haters. It's done. It's over. Even if the suspension holds up, it's over. It was all a joke. This is a joke. It's a witch hunt. It's a $50,000 fine for rolling through a stop sign. And it's because it's the Patriots, as always, because they win partly, and partly because they do bend the rules and they do push the envelope. It's because of all that. And now, we'll see. I think that a decision will come, maybe not this week, although it could come in the next couple days, but realistically in a few weeks during training camp. And then we'll see what Brady's next steps are. But
I think any Patriots fan that will sit there and tell you that they don't think that the Patriots and Bill Belichick and Tom Brady and anyone on that team doesn't push the envelope from time to time, they're living in a sad world of disillusion, because that's obviously what's happening. But my point of mentioning, the tide's turning is kind of the same as when you look at like the Facebook responses on like all these sports articles, even on NFL memes, which is hilarious. I love all the stuff they post, even if it's anti-Patriot stuff. The top comments have stopped becoming ban Brady for life, take away the Super Bowls, to good luck, Tom, in your appeal. From a non-Patriots fan, I hope you get off of this. And it's just the tide is starting to turn outside of New England. People are starting to catch wind of how bullcrap this is, how absurd this entire thing was, and us Patriot fans are now kind of just sitting here like, what took you guys so long? Like, we've been here sweating this crap out for the last 3 months, and now you're just catching wind that it's idiotic too. But whatever. And now comes the point in our podcast where we are once again going to bring in a guest. Second time we've had a guest, but it's the same guest. You might know him from Patriots 4th and 2, the podcast. He's a contributor on that. He's also the featured columnist for PatsFans.com. We welcome back Steve Balestrieri, who has written an article most recently about the appeal process that happened yesterday. Steve, how you doing this morning?
Doing great, guys. How are you?
Pretty good. Despite the fact that most of the time when I would have been watching Twitter all yesterday afternoon to hear details of the report, I ended up getting called into work. But I had Cody messaging me, and really nothing came of it.
I was going to say, you really didn't miss much.
No, I didn't miss much. I didn't get an update until I was at dinner around 9 o'clock, and they said it was about to end, and then around 10 o'clock it ended. But yeah, I guess I'll hand it over to Cody because he's set this whole thing up. So.
Yeah, Steve, obviously, if anybody listening to the show hasn't read it already, you had a good article on PatsFans.com this morning really summarizing pretty much all the whole process that happened yesterday, talking about how long it took, the parties involved, and so on. But one of the things that really stuck out to me right off the bat here was the interesting aspect of time in this whole appeal process. You saw the early report come out saying that Brady's camp was only going to have about 4 hours to defend themselves, while the NFL, seemingly had, we're in month 4 now of this whole investigation. And that, along with the fact that originally it was supposed to get done by 5:30, ends up not finishing until 8:30, 9 o'clock or so. What do you think about this whole process of time in this whole appeal? And really, can we trust any report when it comes out to a timeline for this?
That's a good question, because I know when Adam Schefter first tweeted that out, and it came from Adam Schefter at ESPN, and his sources are usually, spot on, and he's very rarely wrong when he puts this stuff out. And then one of the NFL's attorneys, I'm trying to remember who it was. I think it was Aiello.
I think it was their
that
PR guy. Yeah,
Brady was going to have all the time that he needed. But then Schefter, he tweeted out the letter that the NFL had sent Brady's defense team, and they had originally had marked out that he was going to have 4 hours to present it. Now, obviously, it went much, much longer. I think the NFL probably thought better of that. Let's face it, this entire fiasco has been a mess from the start. And if they were giving the impression that, they weren't giving him enough time to present his defense, I think this would have looked even worse. So, they did the right thing. They stayed until it was done. I think it was like 8:30 or 8:40 last night.
Yeah, it was
they
a long
finally
time.
finished.
I think it was right up against the 12-hour mark. But I also want to ask you, in that one of those letters, I don't know if it was from ILO or not, but it said something like Brady and his camp would have 4 hours unless they were giving good testimony or they were doing well, and then the NFL would grant them an additional hour. So does the fact that this appeal went so long bode well for Brady in the fact that his camp might have gotten that extra time because what they were giving was pleasing Goodell, was making him rethink upon Troy Vincent's decision, was making him rethink what he read in the Wells report? It seems like it would for me, but I'm curious to see what your opinion is as well.
Yeah, it's tough to read the tea leaves on these guys because, the NFL seemed like right at the beginning of this entire, process that they were basing the entire Wells investigation on a presumption of guilt, and that's how they were going forward with it. Now, if you read the letter, I think you're correct when you said it came from ILO, that they said, they would possibly grant another hour. The fact that it went that long, maybe it was good for everybody. I think the fact that, they were getting everything that they needed out on the table, and we'll have to see how it all turns out. I think the fact that it went that long was a good sign for the process in general, because when you're looking at this, the entire 103 days that Ted Wells took, he was supposed to be uncovering the truth. And then, the only thing we were left with was, well, more probable than not and more generally aware. Those aren't really answers. I mean, if that's what you're basing your entire case on, that's not what you want to hear. If you're a prosecutor or you're the judge, you want to hear that this is what we have and this is what we proved, not this other stuff. So I think maybe yesterday was a good thing for everybody, and we'll have to see how long it takes Goodell to come to a decision. I know that Greg Hardy's appeal was heard like more than 6 weeks ago, and we still haven't heard a thing on that.
Yeah, definitely. That was another point is about the timeline of when a decision will come. But before we get to that, what was your opinion on Brady apparently testifying under oath yesterday? I know that was a big question. A lot of media outlets and even fans had in general was whether or not Brady would. I don't know if he was putting his hand on the Bible or if he's putting his hand on the Wells report. I don't think that's a very very good way to testify under oath. But I'll have to say I was pretty surprised with that. I do listen to Felger and Maz quite a bit, and I think that one of the points that Felger has made over the past couple of weeks, which was a good one, was we'll see what Brady does when he puts his hand on the Bible, and I think that kind of caught me off guard that he was testifying under oath, but I think that was a smart move by Brady, because if he really does believe he did nothing wrong, he can go in there, tell Goodell, look, why don't we just treat this like court right now? I will testify under oath. I didn't know what they were doing. I told them to make sure the balls weren't really hard. I didn't tell them how to do it. I didn't know if they were cheating. I would obviously never tell them to cheat, blah, blah, blah. But I think that's a good thing that he was under oath. A lot of people are talking about perjury now and if he's lying. I don't think Tom Brady and his team would go in there, testify under oath, and then lie. I can't imagine they're that idiotic, pretty much. But what's your opinion on that?
Exactly. And I think they were setting this up under the presumption that this may end up in court. So they wanted his testimony under oath. And I think that was probably a good move for the Brady camp. And then, without being in there, without seeing everything, I mean, the NFL didn't release any statements at the end of the proceedings last night. The only thing we have is Brady's lawyer gave a short statement, and he said, we presented a very compelling case, and that's all I'll say. Adam Schefter, again, he's the guy with all the contacts, and he tweeted something out last night that was interesting, and he tweeted out, was told by a person in today's appeal that Tom Brady's greatest ally was Tom Brady. He offered explanations in every area. Now it's up to Goodell. So, we'll have to take it at face value that he presented himself quite well yesterday. And, we'll have to see how it all turns out. But I think that him testifying under oath was a good thing, because if this does end up in court, which I believe that it will, and they're going to need him to testify under oath anyway. And now they already have a statement from him.
Yeah, and you lead in those two quotes from Schefter and Kessler were part of the next topic I wanted to bring up. I know that, those look good for Brady's camp coming out. It makes us as Patriots fans and followers of the team excited. But how much stock can we really buy into those? We've seen over time, especially during this process, I've seen it more than ever. You can definitely see where these reporters are getting their leaks from. And I have to imagine Adam Schefter coming out with Tom Brady was an A-plus guy. On a scale of 1 to 10, he was a 10. I have to imagine that was a Patriot representative or a person from his camp. So how much stock can you really buy into that? Because, obviously Brady's camp is going to be saying that, he did great. They got nothing. He's going to be there week 1. So it's obviously not a bad thing, but how much stock can we really buy into that quote, do you think? And even with Kessler, with him saying it's a compelling case, I know that he wasn't going to give us a good soundbite. He's just doing his job, blah, blah. But that really doesn't sound too convincing for me. Well, he put in a compelling case. I don't want him to come out and say, yeah, it's a slam dunk. He's off the hook. Wrap it up, boys. But both of those quotes, I kind of want to pump the brakes on them. They're good, but we'll see what happens with the Ginger Hammer here in a few days, or probably a few weeks, really.
Yeah, again, you make a great point, because they were guarded in their responses, and but they were obviously positive. And again, yeah, I think you made a great point with Schefter's comment. I'm sure that came from a person in Brady's camp. I'm sure that didn't come from somebody in the NFL. Again, it's tough to read the tea leaves on this without anyone being in there and saying it. It's not like some of the court cases we've seen right here in Boston, with the Tsarnaev case and the Aaron Hernandez case, where reporters were allowed in the courtroom and saw the testimony. We have to just go by innuendo that's being leaked out, just like everything else in this case that has gone forward with this. I think, when you're looking at it, it's going to come down to, I think this is going to end up in court. I don't think Roger Goodell can throw out Brady's entire suspension. He can't do it. He's tied too much into this Wells report. He said he believed in it and all this, and now the science has come out and basically debunked a lot of what he quoted in his report. But I think he's going to reduce Brady's suspension to probably 3 or 2 games, and I don't think Brady's going to accept that. I think we're heading to court.
No, I definitely agree with you. I think if it comes down to 3 games, definitely going to court. I think 2 is kind of the number where 2 or 1 comes to, Brady really starts to think about it. 2 games, maybe not. 1 game, probably the hardest decision, whether or not he wants to pursue it more. If Goodell comes down and says, you know what, Tom, you put a compelling case, but the fact remains you didn't cooperate with the investigation, you didn't hand over your cell phone, you didn't do X, Y, and Z, so therefore we're going to give you this 1-game suspension. We're going to exonerate you on the integrity of the game with manipulating the air pressure in the footballs. But, I think if it comes down to 1 game, I'll politely disagree with you, Steve. I think that he might accept that just because Tom Brady is one of these guys we've seen year in and year out. He doesn't like confrontation with front office. He doesn't like confrontation with management. We've seen it in contract negotiations more than ever, really. I know the guy is team first all the time, but we really never had a contract issue with him, and that was even before he was with Giselle. That was, even way back. I know he's always had endorsement money, but before he was, the Tom Brady we know today, he really has swayed away from that type of confrontation. But then again, I really don't know. It's all the reports coming out is that Brady is extremely mad about how his character has been portrayed over the past 6 weeks, and the fact that his name has been dragged through the mud. So maybe you are right. Maybe he does go to federal court. I hope he does. I hope that he doesn't miss a game. I think this is all silly. I think it's silly that Brett Favre doesn't cooperate with an investigation and gets a $50,000 fine, and they're going to turn around and give Brady 1 or 2 games for not cooperating. I think that'd be absolutely silly. But, I'll wrap it up. My last kind of 2-part question for you is, obviously you follow the national media pretty well. It seems like a lot of the opinions are starting to turn around. Not to pick on her, but one of the big names actually is Jackie McMullen on ESPN Boston. She, right after the fine came out, put an article about how, the Patriots really, their legacy is tainted, so on. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but... And then yesterday she puts out an article saying Brady's legacy will survive this. And it seems like a lot of the national media, not only the, local New England media, but even a lot of the national media, you hear Schefter kind of talking about, Brady looked good, that's a good sign. it seems like they're all starting to come around on this. It seems like everyone's starting to kind of think that, this is silly. All right, this needs to go away now. We're almost into training camp. Let's get back to real football. Do you think that is the NFL kind of leaking stuff out saying, look, this has gone on long enough. We got the screen time out of it. We got the run play. There's no such thing as bad press. We're going to really bring it down. Brady's going to take it to federal court. He's going to win. We know this. So let's start turning the narrative towards, this is dumb. This is going to end. Let's start focusing on training camp battles and positional battles. Do you think that might be the case there?
That's a tough question. The NFL mishandled this entire thing from the get-go. And, there's been so many leaks from their end, and most of them were erroneous. I mean, it all started with the erroneous leak to the Mort report when he was saying 11 of the 12 footballs were, more than 2 pounds under the league mandate, which was entirely not true. And, it's very difficult to peg this down. I don't think the NFL, granted, more than anything, I think they want it to be over. But I think they want it to be over with Brady accepting his suspension. I think this is a no-win for anybody. I think everyone's going to come out with egg on their face. Brady's legacy is already tainted with this. Regardless of how this turns out, people are going to still talk about this as he's guilty, because no matter how this case turns out, people who already have their minds made up on this, they're not going to change. If Brady accepts a one-game suspension, the people that have been defending him are still going to believe that he was innocent. And even if the suspension is wiped clean, the people that believe that he was guilty aren't going to change their opinion on that either. So this is a tough one. I don't know. I think the NFL is trying to cover their tracks now. I think the Wells report was kind of sloppy, and judging from their entire summation with the more generally aware and more probable than not, that's not what you pay your money for, and tying their wagons to exponent, who's been outed as being very biased in their investigations, as you would put it, is not the way to go. And I think that the NFL is gonna fight this as well. I think they want to come out of this looking like they handled everything, especially Goodell after last year with Ray Rice. He wants to come out of this looking like he's the sheriff in town and he's got a handle on things. And I think that's as far from the truth as you can get.
No, yeah, you're definitely right. I think that this is really a power struggle. This is, a perfect case for Goodell to make an example out of Tom Brady, and it's a perfect case for the NFLPA to make an example out of Roger Goodell for, what they're probably setting up for as the future commissioner of the NFL. It really is, you're right. Nobody's a winner here. It's been a mess from the start. As Patriots fans, I look back at the past couple of years, really. It's been a roller coaster of emotion. You go back to the Aaron Hernandez dilemma. Really, since then, it hasn't been time where the Patriots aren't in the news from 2013 with no weapons for Brady, and the depleted team. They're playing all on heart. You got guys like Julian Edelman with his breakout season, and then last year, obviously, the dynasty's over. You got Darrelle Revis, and then they come back, one of the best defenses, win the Super Bowl, and now this whole mess. So it really is an emotional roller coaster. I've described it to my friends, being a Patriots fan, and you're exactly right. There is no winner here. We know that your prediction is Goodell will cut down to 3 or 2 games after this appeal process, but my next question is, how long does this take for Goodell to announce? Do you think it's going to be this week? Maybe not so much, or do you think it's going to come before training camp, during training camp? When do you think that he finally announces it?
I think it's going to come in training camp. I think he's going to wait that long. I don't think he's going to move on this anytime soon. We saw it with the Wells report. They took forever. They took 103 days. And why it took that long is anybody's guess. And the 2 guys that haven't been heard from, through this appeal process, I was fully expecting Jastrzemski and McNally to get called yesterday. That's what I was waiting for, and I haven't heard anything that either of those 2 guys were there. So we'll just have to assume that they weren't. But I think it's going to be training camp when we hear from Goodell.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. I think it's more likely. It's more probable than not it'll be training camp. But I also wouldn't sleep on it coming out potentially tomorrow or this week. The NFL has been known to steal headlines from time to time, and tomorrow you have the NBA draft. That's going to be a big headline on ESPN and a lot of the major news outlets. Hey, it sounds crazy, but the NFL is a business.
I've seen crazier things from the NFL.
They are a business, and they know how to market. So it would not shock me if, they got it done yesterday. They are going to deliberate. They are going to be in league offices talking about this today. And then tomorrow around, 5:30 when they close up shop, they announce it. But more likely than not, you're right. It's going to be during training camp. It's going to be a 4:30 or 5:30 news dump. Everybody's going to get out of the office for the weekend. We're all going to lose our minds over the weekend. Then Monday we're going to come back tired from yelling and screaming, and the NFL is going to put out some other, announcement, and then we'll be fine. But no, I think you're definitely right, Steve. This has been a joke from the start. Nobody's a winner here. But obviously it's a situation as Patriots fans and as, people who provide Patriots news, we have to follow, we have to cover, we have to familiarize ourselves with. But this has been great, Steve. I want to thank you very much for coming on again, as always. Great guest. Make sure you go follow him on Twitter. We just tweeted out if you follow us on Twitter. Obviously, you better be following Steve if you follow us. But PatsFans.com, you can read his stuff there. And Patriots 4th and 2. I'm pretty sure you guys have a new episode coming out today, actually, don't you?
Yes, in about 45 minutes, we're going to record our latest, and we're going to be talking about this exact same thing. So,
yeah, just a bit of a dress rehearsal before
there you go.
Start up on that one.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you very much, Steve. We appreciate it as always, and have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
So that was Steve Balestrieri of PatsFans.com and Patriots 4th and 2. Always love having him on. Remember the first time we had him on, I was listening to some of the things he said, and I just sat there like, this guy is in my head. This guy is saying everything I think. So I like having like-minded people on the show. Maybe someday we'll get someone on the show who has a little bit of differing opinions with us. I know you and I differ in opinion on a couple things.
Yeah.
But for the most part, we're pretty much the same.
Yeah. We're both homers. It's in our bio. We're both homers. So we're gonna say the things that make the Patriots look good and the stuff that makes them look bad. We don't really want to bring up as much, but we try to stay somewhat level-headed, somewhat realistic, I'll say.
Yeah. So we will continue with Patriots news in a little bit, because our last topic is going to be a little bit more on the cutesy side, on the non-news side, more of just an opinion side. But this is some NFL news that came out yesterday. I don't have the full information in front of me. I know you do, Cody, so I will basically turn it over to you at that point. But to paraphrase, you sent me that screenshot last night while I was at work of Peyton Manning in trade talks from the Broncos to who were they talking to?
The Texans.
Yep. And I'll let you read the full information in a second, but I just wanted to give you my first impression on that was, like, you saw my reaction was way over the top. I was just like, I was shocked that was a thing. And I was wondering why. Because you and I both have the opinion that Peyton Manning is not as good as he once was. He is very good in the regular season when it comes to, getting those stats, putting on a performance, getting the job done in the regular season. It's more later in the season to the postseason where he's not performing as well. And you can point to the strain on his arm. You could talk about the surgery. You could talk about whatever. But I think the big surprising point here is that Peyton Manning is one of the faces of the NFL. He is one of those recognizable quarterbacks who's been around for quite some time. Back when I was a kid first watching the Patriots with Drew Bledsoe, it was like Bledsoe, Favre, Cunningham, the big and Marino, like the big faces of the NFL around that time, whether current or retired at that point. And right now, it's become Wilson, Kaepernick, Manning, Brady, Newton. Like, it's the Roethlisberger. Like, those are the recognizable faces. And so to hear that, especially one of the quote-unquote higher up in terms of their status in the NFL as Peyton Manning, someone who's been a playoff contender every year, someone who has won a Super Bowl with the Colts, and you look at that and you're shocked. But I say, why? What has he done in the last couple of years to warrant him staying with Denver? I mean, Denver was a powerhouse, like two years ago when they made the Super Bowl, but then they got trounced in the Super Bowl after blowing out the Patriots, and then this year they just couldn't do anything against the Patriots, and so it leads me to say this: people are going to be shocked by this, and that's not without a doubt. But I feel like they shouldn't be. I feel like that's a very valid trade. Denver has been known to, take in a quarterback and show them that they could be a starter for them, and then after they repay you by getting you some playoff wins, ship them off to the next bet. And of course, I'm still a little bit salty after Tim Tebow, but that's besides the point, because this has so many sides to it, and I'll let you get into the nitty-gritty details. I just wanted to put out my first take on that, saying I feel like a lot of people are going to be very shocked that this was a thing, but I feel like they shouldn't be. They're only shocked because Peyton Manning is such a huge name in the NFL, and I'm not saying you're wrong for being shocked. I was shocked at first, and then I said to myself, wait, why is this so shocking to me? I should see this coming. Like, Peyton Manning is, as you and I like to say, not as good as he once was. And so, yeah, I'll let you kind of get into the nitty-gritty details of that.
So obviously last night, Benjamin Albright of 94.1 FM in Denver came out with the breaking news, pretty much. I'll call it breaking news because it is, like you said. And, to even go off what your comment, I even put Peyton higher than guys like Roethlisberger.
Oh,
and
absolutely,
Eli.
absolutely.
Peyton is one of those guys that will go down as one of the, maybe not the best of all time, but the best of his generation. Arguably, him and Brady are the two best of their generation. But Benjamin Albright cites two unrelated official sources for the report, adding that certain elements of the Broncos organization wanted the Brock Osweiler era to start in 2015. This was obviously Peyton to Houston. Houston was a team that was in the Peyton Manning sweepstakes back after the 2011 season, I believe. That was Peyton's last year in Indianapolis, and then I think it was 2012. Yeah, 2012 he came to Denver for the first year. They lost to Baltimore in the divisional game that year, lost to the Seahawks in the Super Bowl in 2013, and obviously lost to the Colts in the 2014 divisional round. I'm not surprised by this in the least. I think that Denver has gotten everything they could get out of Peyton. He's a guy that will put up outstanding numbers to start the year, but as the weather gets colder and as he gets more tired and fatigued, he simply can't keep up with the other teams in the NFL. He's not athletic enough anymore. I think he gets beat up. He did have that injury last year, but I do think that his arm is cooked. I think that it's time, that he starts moving on, and Denver wanted to kind of get something out of him before this could arguably be his last year in the NFL. I think that they said, well, we're not winning a Super Bowl with Peyton Manning this year. You look at what New England has done. They've lost Darrelle Revis, but they've still found a way to put themselves in a position to contend for a Super Bowl. You see what Indianapolis has done. They have only gotten better. And you look at a team like Baltimore, they're still going to be good. Those are probably the top three teams in the AFC. Denver is kind of looking at themselves like, yeah, well, I don't know about this. I don't think we're there anymore. So it would have been a huge trade. I would have definitely feared the Houston Texans because I think they're a team that plays such great defense and they can run the ball well that with a quarterback like Peyton Manning, you can take a lot off him. You don't ask him to do as much like Denver asked him to do. And they would definitely – Houston is my dark horse in the AFC as it is. And I think that with a quarterback like Peyton Manning, they would only get better. So it makes total sense for both teams. I'm surprised that it's getting leaked out now. If they've kept it under wrap for so long, I figured that it would just kind of go to the wayside and you wouldn't hear anything of it. But, we'll see how this affects Peyton Manning this year. Obviously you never like seeing stories go out about a team wanting to trade you. But it is a business. Everybody knows that in the end. He's gone through it once with Indianapolis when they pretty much said, no, we don't want you. We're going to go with this young kid. So who knows? It's a huge story, though. Like you said, no one should be shocked by this.
But it is a huge story.
It is a huge story.
He is very up there.
Absolutely. So, it just kind of shows me that, the big conversation, it was last year, 2 years ago, really, of Denver going all in. The Patriots weren't going all in. Look where it's gotten those two teams. Patriots are, have the Super Bowl win from last year. They're set up as a team that has some flexibility now over the next couple of years to hopefully re-sign Dante Hightower, Jamie Collins, hopefully Chandler Jones. And you look at a team like Denver that loaded up on those contracts, and now you're going to have a bunch of aging players that have huge contracts. DeMarcus Ware, you have Aqib Talib, Demaryius Thomas. You have to deal with that contract soon. They already had to let Julius Thomas go. They had to let Eric Decker go this offseason before that, and now you have a quarterback who, is probably going to get done, and then you're going to have Brock Osweiler come in, and it's just maybe not the best situation in the world. They still had a good run for those 3 years. They were extremely competitive. They were a good team.
They got as close as they could and then fumbled and then long snapped it away.
But I just don't think that I don't think John Elway saw it in Peyton. I think that Super Bowl really opened his eyes. I think if he could have had his way, he would have dealt Manning that offseason. I think that, he really saw that, this guy needs a lot of help.
Yeah.
He isn't a Tom Brady. He isn't a John Elway. He isn't a Joe Montana. He's just not. He's a very talented quarterback. He's a Dan Marino. He's a guy that puts up a lot of stats. When it comes down to it, to win games, to win Super Bowls, he's not that guy. He will go down as the greatest regular season quarterback of all time.
Yeah. And
I have no problem saying that.
And when I go back to my salty point about the Tim Tebow reference, and obviously before anyone calls me out as like a Tim Tebow homer, which I am, but I mean. My point in that was to just kind of, draw alliterations to how I feel about the Broncos front office in dealing with that. But it makes complete sense to go. It made complete sense to go with Peyton Manning over Tim Tebow because Peyton Manning got them to a Super Bowl, got them in more playoff contention than they had, and with the team that they built with Peyton, was more suited for Peyton. It was not suited for Tebow at all. Tebow's team. If someone were to build a team around Tebow, which I don't think anyone would at this point, but if they did, it would be pretty awesome to see because it would be a lot of fast, smaller guys. But I guess my question is, so this trade didn't go through, right? This was just trade talks.
It was just I don't know how close they got. It was a rumor.
So what do you think happens next? Do you think that they continue to try to deal Peyton? Do you think that they drop Peyton?
I think that Peyton is the guy this year, and then I think at the end of the season, it's they either trade him or cut him or he retires.
What do you think this does for morale? Anything, or do you think it's not? Do you think it doesn't matter?
I think that team. I think that they'll be all right. I think if they can change their philosophy, they got Gary Kubiak, a new head coach. They got a new offensive coordinator. Their defense was obviously pretty good last year. They bring in a kid like Shane Ray who. Has issues off the field, but on the field, he's a very talented player. If they can play defense, if they can run the ball, maybe not ask Peyton so much, protect him some more, really only have him throw when they need it. I think that they'll be a team that, will make the playoffs and probably get bounced. I still don't think they're a Super Bowl team. I don't think that, from top to bottom, they have what it takes to win a Super Bowl. I've been wrong before, though. Obviously more times than not, as much as I hate to admit it, but I think that it'll still be fun when actually the Patriots travel to Denver this year to play the Broncos. That'll still be a fun game. It's still a fun rivalry. What is it going to be now? 17? Brady Manning 17, I think.
I don't even know.
It's getting up there.
Brady has the all-time record, right?
Yeah, he's leading the series by way more than Peyton can catch him now, but
yeah, no. There's not enough time left.
We'll see. I think that, like I said, Broncos will be a good team. They'll be a playoff team. They'll be entertaining to watch for their fan base. I don't think they're winning Super Bowl. I would be surprised if they make it to the AFC Championship game. If it comes to Patriots-Broncos AFC Championship game, man, I am all for it. Pretty much any AFC team besides the Baltimore Ravens right now, bring them on.
Hate it.
But,
hate whenever we play the Ravens.
But
it's just even if I know we can beat them.
I know.
It's just
that team.
It's demons. This past year was like the year of demons, basically.
Yeah. So they'll still be a good team. I don't think it'll affect morale too much. I think Peyton's a pretty high class guy. He'll calm down the locker room. He'll calm down the media as best as he can. He's extremely good PR wise.
Oh, he's
they'll be
one of the best.
They'll go along their way. He'll put up his high stats. He'll be a great fantasy quarterback to start the year. But if you draft him, you better have a kid that you think is going to be good by the end of the season because he isn't putting up big numbers by the end.
If I go with my normal of picking up Manning and then some no-namer,
Teddy Bridgewater.
Usually I pick up a pretty small name guy as my secondary.
That's who I'm gonna.
I remember.
We'll get to fantasy talk probably later once it gets closer to draft time.
Dude, I can't wait for fantasy season. It's
but
my favorite. No, but another side note, bringing back the Tebow thing because I just can't get off that topic. I picked him up that year that he was on the Broncos. I picked him up towards the end of the season. He won me my fantasy league, which was awesome.
I actually won my first fantasy league this past year with some of my friends that I used to swim with here, and the guy who actually won it for me was none other than Mr. Madden 16 himself, Odell Beckham Jr. Picked him up 2 weeks before he got off the disabled list and absolutely tore apart the league.
That's
He
what I love about-
single-handedly won the league for me.
That's what I love about fantasy
It's
football.
it's really not
You
the
just-
draft. It's all about who runs the waiver wire the
Yeah,
best.
absolutely. It's not about exactly, and it's about doing some research, taking a chance on a guy like I've never heard of this guy. Let's try him, and then he ends up blowing up.
But hey, speaking about fantasy football, there's a guy on the Patriots who puts up pretty good fantasy numbers. I think he's coming out with a new book. Maybe we'll...
No, yeah, Gronk has a new book. I'm assuming a follow-up to Growing Up Gronk, which I still haven't read yet. You need to give me that book. It sounds really good. But Gronkowski's been in the news a lot lately because of his new book. There's been a lot of talk coming out about the biggest thing I've seen is his fiscal responsibility in terms of how he's spending his NFL money. The short answer is he's not. According to Gronkowski, he hasn't touched a cent of his NFL earnings, and he's been living off of marketing, which is, I believe, estimated to about $3.5 million.
It was
already.
like 3.5. His endorsements, and then it was like 25 or 26 for his actual NFL contract money. But no, you're exactly right.
He hasn't touched a cent of it, and it's led people to think, oh, look at this guy. He plays like a kid but thinks like an adult, and that's the best way to live life, in my opinion. And I would love to see him in the news for that. And the fact that he's just kind of like, he looks like the type of guy who, if you saw him on the street and you didn't know who he was, you'd be like, oh wow, that guy's really big and scary, and I wouldn't want to mess with him in a club. But he's really like just an altogether cool, fun-loving guy who goes out of his way to make people around him happy, I guess. And
no, yeah,
that's it's you tweeted this out yesterday, and it was I wanted to take this because it was I thought it was a really good take by you when just because someone's big and likes to have fun and is a little bit childish sometimes, people like to think that they're dumb. Where Gronkowski can really put off that persona. Whereas, as you said, this guy learned the Patriots playbook. And as we've said on the show, it's not that small of a playbook. It's very in depth, and for people who think that he's dumb, I mean, this news story about he's been saving his money and just budgeting his marketing income, and then the fact that he's a very intelligent guy for someone of his archetype, if you will.
No, yeah, I mean, I think it was Mike Loico, who's another great follow on Twitter, NEPD_/Loco. But no, he came out and said that he has some pretty good sources that came out and said that Gronk was one of the quickest guys to learn the Patriots playbook under Bill Belichick, in terms of being young and coming into the system. He's not a dumb guy. He likes to have fun. He's, 26 years old, 25, 26 years old. He just won a Super Bowl. He's one of the most talented athletes in the entire world. And, he does it smart, though. He doesn't, he hired a guy to drive his party bus and to pretty much take care of him and to watch his back at all times. They call him Goon. This guy is smart. He knows what he's doing. He doesn't buy extravagant cars. He doesn't, he has the party bus, and he bought a house down in Florida for his family to go vacation at. Besides that, he really doesn't have any extravagant purchases. He doesn't drive some Bugatti. He doesn't have a mansion. I'm pretty sure his house is, pretty, it's a nice house, I'm sure, but it's not some, $5 million mansion in Boston. It's a pretty modest house for his line of work. And, that's just it. He isn't a dumb guy. He's a fun-loving guy. We like to make fun of him. Oh, Gronk smash, Gronk spike, Gronk score touchdown. But realistically, he's not. He's a very intelligent young man.
I mean, that's a character. When you're a big football player, who's a goofy guy, you're gonna get that. You're gonna get that archetype as if he's a character, and I love it. I love that he plays that up, and I love the fact that behind the scenes when everyone's like, oh, he's just a big dummy football player. Hey, look at how cute he is. He doesn't know what's for his own good. Actually, he's quite intelligent and is probably going to be richer than most NFL players by the end of his career because he's going to be saving it up. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of that money ends up going into charity work because that's also something that he loves doing. I remember seeing a picture of him, and I think it was him and LeGarrette Blount, when he was rehabbing from injury. Like he was in a wheelchair, and he was like hanging out with little kids and infants at a children's hospital in a wheelchair. Like he could be staying at home rehabbing, getting his leg better, but he's like, no, I want to go do charity work with Blunt. I think it was LeGarrette Blunt. It was one of the running backs. I can't remember. But it was one of my favorite pictures of him. Because he looks like he's having more fun than the kids are.
No, and that's, I think a lot of people, I think Jeff Howe came out and said it, that Rob Gronkowski is easily the most, in tune Patriot with community involvement. You always see him at events. You always see him volunteering his time.
Mm-hmm.
And even right after this offseason, even a lot, since he didn't have to rehab, he was out in the community more than ever. But when he did do his rehab, pretty much when he could get up and move around, it was straight to the PR office at Patriot Place saying, oh, look, I'll do whatever. I want to get out. I want to be seen. And it works because, look, he's a guy to easily cheer for. He's one of those guys that, parents want to buy the jersey for to put on the kids. That's a guy who's doing it right. Yeah, he likes to have fun, but he's still responsible. When it comes down to football, he's playing football. He's intense. He's focused and all that. Growing Up Gronk, I'll plug that really quickly. Probably one of the most enjoyable sports reads I've ever had. I've read a lot of sports books. It's a very short, quick read about, the whole family growing up. You really get to see inside the dynamics of what made them who they are. It's pretty interesting. Highly recommend it. It's a very quick read. It took me 2 days, I think. I got it for Christmas this year, and I pretty much sat on the couch for a couple hours both days and just flew through it. I'm 100% going to buy this one. Comes out July 14th.
What's this one called?
It's Good to Be Gronk. He wrote it with his agent, Jason Rosenhaus. Some excerpts out there from the Monday Morning Quarterback. You should go read them, talking about a bachelorette party that he crashed, something about a fight in a frat house, and a pretty good interaction with Bill Belichick. They're all out online. You can find it on Nesson.
Yeah,
you can find it on Monday Morning Quarterback.
He sounds like quite an interesting character. It sounds like someone I would like to just follow around one day and be like, I'm just gonna follow you and see what happens.
He is kind of like a character you'd find on Blue Mountain State. That's what it is. He's kind of that fun-loving guy on Blue Mountain State that likes to have fun, but at the end of the day, he's a guy that's gonna have your back. And, I have some friends who are pretty connected with the team, and it sounds like, all the stories I hear from them are, Rob Gronkowski is one of those guys that, he doesn't think that he is holier than holy because he's a football player. He still loves the fans. He likes reaching out to them. He likes to try to interact with them. Even at training camp this past year, I saw him sign autographs almost longer than any other player. He stood out there for a long time signing. He just loves to give back to the community. That's obviously given a lot to him, but like you said, he's a fun guy to cheer for. We love him. Guy that, once Ortiz and Brady leave and retire, it's going to be Rob Gronkowski's town. Make no doubts about that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's already claiming a stake in his town, and I mean, it's only a matter of time before, we're not going to talk Red Sox today, but it's only a matter of time before that ends up blowing up. But no, yeah, I think Gronk, and there's not really a Bruins player other than Chara who's been.
Well, Bergeron,
but still,
he's
Chara,
not.
yeah.
But they're not. Hockey, it's hard to have big personalities. Football, it's one of those sports that really football and baseball. Those are and basketball, I guess. But who knows? Well, hey, maybe the next big name is coming in tomorrow for the Celtics.
Yeah, the NBA draft is tomorrow night. The Celtics have been.
Very active in the news.
Very active in the news. Ainge and everyone talking trade rumors and talking about who they might want to go up and get. I haven't been following it as much.
Oh my God, it's been awesome.
I've been more interested in the Paul Pierce situation, and you think he's going
it's
to LA?
It's over. Paul, he's going to LA. He's going to be a Clipper. Yeah, that's done.
Do you think he's going to end his career as a Clipper?
Yes.
All right.
Well, unless if he does the one day retire as a Celtic thing, I don't really count that.
Yeah, I don't count that. I'm saying think he's going to.
He will never play in a Celtics jersey again. He won't. Unless if something crazy happens and then Pierce says, okay, they have a legitimate shot to win a championship this year, I'm going to go to them. But they're not. The Celtics won't be there. What the Celtics need to do, here's my list of things they should do. They should call back Philly. That deal they offered, Marcus Smart and the number 16 and 28 pick for Nerlens Noel and the number 3 overall pick, bump that up. Throw in a Brooklyn pick. Try to throw extra pieces. If they can get Nerlens Noel and the number 3 overall pick this year, oh my God. You want to talk about a team fun to watch? And, Marcus Smart, I love him. He's feisty. He's a good Boston player. He's nasty. He went in the stands when he was in college.
Big bad boy.
Yeah, big bad Celtics. But, no, I like him. But, you know what? He's a point guard who can't shoot. How many point guards that can't shoot win championships? Not many. If you got a point guard that needs to score, you look at Derrick Rose, you look at Steph Curry, you need one of those guys if you're going to build your team around that point guard.
All you got to do is be able to pass. All you got to do is be able to pass to the big boy.
You still need – well, they don't have a big boy. That's the problem. This is how you get the big boy. You can get Nerlens Noel. He's a guy that is an elite defensive player in the middle. I don't want to say Kevin Garnett because he's not there yet, obviously, but he's a guy that can develop into that, quarterback of the defense, really get under guys' skin, be that nasty intimidator. That's the type of guy I want them to get. Nerlens Noel can do that. He's finally getting healthy again, finally coming back. If they can pull that trade, and then with the number 3 pick, you got all kinds of options. You can go Justice Winslow from Duke. You can go the Russell kid from Ohio State. I can't remember his full name right now. I'm sorry. But there's a lot of options there. If they can't get that, there's the Willie Cauley-Stein, the guy from Kentucky that's highly rumored, who's, again, another good defensive player, but offensively he's abysmal. He's a guy that if you trade into the top 10 or just after the top 10, a guy that you might be able to get. But don't sleep on, I think his name's Sam Decker, the shooting guard out of Wisconsin, who can just straight up shoot the ball. He's a guy that, might be an option for the Celtics at 16 even, or you only have to trade a pick or 2 up. But when Danny Ainge says we have 2 picks in the first round, but I don't know what we're picking yet, that shows you that they are moving. One way or another, they are going to move up. They might move down. They might trade for, a proven player. They might trade for future draft, for unprotected lottery picks. You never really know. They have lots of assets, though. They got to make moves every offseason. It's, fireworks this year. Well, you're kind of getting the point, Danny, where you got to make fireworks. Do I think Danny Ainge is some great general manager in basketball? No.
Nope.
Can you be a great general manager in basketball? No, because you only need a few good players. You get them lucky more than not, and then you're a good team. Look at LeBron James. He leaves from he goes from the Cavaliers to the Heat, who the Heat had a pretty bad year. The Heat make it to the next 4 straight NBA Finals. They take 2 of them. Then he leaves the Heat, goes back to the Cavs. And the Cavs were, the number 1 pick in the lottery, and the Cavs make it to the Finals. That just shows you how one player can change a team. Danny's looking for that one player. He's going to do what he can. Obviously, Marcus Smart is not that guy. If he can ship off Smart, ship off those other 2 first-rounders, and even if you throw in another 1 or 2, you get Nerlens Noel, you get the number 3 pick. They open the dialogue with Philly. Maybe it's totally closed. I don't know. But that deal is just like, I'm licking my chops thinking about that type of team. That would be awesome.
Well, we'll see what happens tomorrow night. I will most definitely
I'm like a closet basketball guy. It's fun to talk basketball again.
I'm very upset.
You're a full-out basketball
I'm
guy.
very upset that you didn't do any of this talk with me during this school
It's
year.
bad. I'm a very bandwagon-y basketball fan. I can't watch bad basketball. I can't. It's so bad.
And that's the thing there's so much bad basketball in the NBA is the issue. And the NBA is the great at so much. But yes, I agree. The Celtics have been.
I will still say
bad.
I think one of my favorite championship runs we're so spoiled. We can rank our championship runs of our lifetime. But one of my favorite championship runs was that 08 Celtics team. I was so endowed with that team. That was awesome.
Dude, so was I.
Well, I know you. I mean, you are a basketball guy, but
I was born bleeding green.
Exactly. So
day 3 out the womb, my grandfather put a Celtics hat on me, and I'm just like, oh, okay. So I guess this is me now. Thanks, Grandpa, for the 13, 14 years of terror. Or however many
that
long
08
it was.
team was awesome to watch, though.
No, I mean, yeah,
I want them to get back.
It was worth growing up watching them suck for most of my young life, but nonetheless, we thank you for listening. We'll talk more about. We'll obviously have the draft results next week, but we'll also be talking about possibly the announcement if Cody's prediction is right with them with Roger Goodell announcing it
Don't
tomorrow.
hold your breath, though.
I wouldn't hold my breath, but I mean,
Slim possibility.
I could see it happening, but we'll continue talking about this stuff because knowing this Deflategate crap, something new will drop by next week and some bull crap will happen. But nonetheless, we thank you for listening. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and go Pats. We'll see you next week.
New England, the Patriots and me, rolling on to victory.
Wow, that Danny Ainge complains about every call.
I'm totally mesmerized by Kevin McHale's armpit hair.